All right, it's 3:02, we'll get started. So this is a 2026 open house budget consultation meeting. I'll do a brief introduction and presentation, then afterwards we'll have the open session for questions and comments. Next slide, please. So the scope of the meeting, we're here to answer your questions and seek your opinions and feedback regarding the 2026 municipal budgets, operating and capital, as well as services provided by the township. We'll be giving a brief presentation of the 2026 budget as proposed and the tax rates as proposed. And then we'll have an open session, as I said earlier. Department managers are here to listen to your feedback. Next slide, please. Expectations and respectful behavior policy. So the Township of Manitowoc has a respectful behavior policy, and the expectation is that this meeting will stay respectful. We are live streaming the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel, and the recording will be published for future viewing as well. Please keep in mind that the people at this table work to provide municipal services for you, and consider the people you're speaking to when addressing us. The Township's respectful behavior policy governs the acceptable behavior, and unacceptable behavior will result in a warning, and then continued unacceptable behavior will result in being asked to leave. Next slide, please. Just some examples of unacceptable behavior would include hostile, abusive, or offensive language, shouting, making false or baseless statements, knowingly interrupting the person speaking, commentary and lines of questioning that seek to create a gotcha moment or embarrass or annoy the staff at the table, or targeting individual staff members are all examples of unacceptable behavior. Essentially, just keep it respectful. Next slide, please. So just a quick introduction to municipal council and management. So this is a session being held by municipal management. Occasionally municipal council members will attend these sessions. I don't see council members today, but the Municipal Act 2001 confers powers and responsibilities onto the municipal council to govern the township as far as setting policies and bylaws and overseeing their application. So the municipal council sets the rules, and the municipal administration follows the rules and conducts the day-to-day operation in accordance with council's bylaws and policies. Municipal administration makes professional recommendations to council and carries out council's directives. Just to outline the difference between council and management. And I just want to introduce the managers at the table here. We have our Director of Public Works, Tyler Brewster, our Fire Chief, Scott Track, our CAO and Clerk, Jolene Keogh, and our Director of Community Services, Trish Wallow. Marcel Demars is our Manager of Airport and Bylaw Enforcement. He is not here today. And my name is Aaron McGregor, and I'm the Treasurer for the Township of Manitowoc. Next slide, please. So I'd like to talk a little bit similar to last year's presentation, the Ontario municipal tax rate environment. There is a lot of buzz on social media and in the community about Manitowoc's taxes and tax rates. Often what comes up is our tax rate being high when compared to other municipalities, and this is true. Our rate is high in the sense that because our assessed values are very low, we have to have a higher tax rate to arrive at the same taxation number that you might see in a community with a lower tax rate. So in Manitowoc, you may have a property worth $40,000 that a similar property in a city might be worth $400,000. And in that case, if our tax rate is around 7%, in that larger municipality that might have a $400,000 home, it would be 0.7% tax rate would equal out to the same tax bill. So focusing on only the tax rate does not give the full context of what makes up taxation in our community. So that's just something to keep in mind. Because our assessed values are low, that does push our tax rate up. The average tax bill in Manitowoc, if you look at actual final tax bills, it's well within the normal range in Ontario. Every municipality is very different. Some municipalities have higher average tax rates, some municipalities have lower rates, and all of the factors that many factors go into it, including levels of service, population, how large is your tax base, how many people and households can you tax to provide the municipal services that you're looking to offer as a municipality. Next slide, please. And I did miss on the last slide, just our remote nature is a major challenge for Manitowoc. There are many areas where our costs are simply higher because of our remote location. Vendors, contractors, etc., charge higher rates to come and perform work here, and same freight charges and etc. Many areas are impacted by our remote location, and that can push up our costs. So just looking at the region, and then a little bit wider than our region, at some of the tax rate increases happening in 2026. So inflation is a reality across the province, and we're no exception. Marathon is looking at a 6.07% tax rate increase for 2026 per their municipal website. Terrace Bay 3.73, Wawa 5.34, Sault Ste. Marie 3.87, Thunder Bay 4%. All similar levels of round inflation tax increases. Sudbury and City of Toronto are also the increases. I'm impressive to see City of Toronto kept it at 2.2% this year. Manitowoc has tabled a 0% tax rate increase for 2026 across all property classes. And we've been able to do this through looking at our long-term direction and forecasting. We have realized operating cost savings for the 2026 budget and anticipate being able to realize further savings in future budget years. Over the last several years, we have imposed incremental, or council has imposed on administration's recommendation, incremental tax increases, given that we are in a operating deficit type of situation, and we are using reserves and reserve funds to subsidize our operations. So essentially, we have money's put away over the years in our reserves and reserve funds that was essentially taxed for in prior years and not spent. And now we're in a position where we're using some of those funds to keep the tax rate stable. If we so chose to recommend it, it would be possible to close that gap and tax for the full amount that would be required for the operation. However, the increase to the tax rate would be somewhere in the realm of 8 to 10% if that was the recommendation. But administration has chosen, given that we expect to realize future savings, the recommendation is that this year we stick to a maintenance of the current tax rate, given that we understand that the residents have gone through several tax rate increases over the past few years, and it's something that we see as sustainable. Next slide, please. So just going back to the average tax bill in Manitowoc. So these figures are from an analysis completed in 2025, where the average residential taxable property value in Manitowoc is about $41,000. And that corresponds to, with the current proposed tax rate, an annual residential property tax of just over $3,000. When examining the average property tax bills in different municipalities, as I covered in an earlier slide, there's so many factors that go into setting the tax rate. And there's a wide variance across the province. We do often hear commentary around we're a small remote community, and then there's an expectation that because of that taxes are low. But if you look at our service levels, we do offer many of the urban services that you would see in a city and smaller, more rural communities, many of them in the province don't have the same level of service that we do. As far as direct comparison between communities, it can be difficult because MPAC does not make easily usable data publicly available. So those analyses can be difficult to do easily. It requires a significant amount of legwork. Next slide, please. Misinformation check. So, of course, from time to time, Township becomes aware of misinformation circulating. Usually, the advocate for that is we are contacted by ratepayers that are curious about things that they might see online. So we've had some inquiries regarding tax rate, because there's misinformation circulating that there is in fact a tax rate increase proposed for 2026. This is not the case. It's misinformation. It's not true. There is no tax increase proposed for 2026 in the budget. If your assessed value and your property class haven't changed from 2025, then your property tax charges will not change for 2026 when compared to 2025. However, when the user fee bylaw was passed back in the spring, there was a 3% increase to water and sewer charges for the 2026 user fees. So there will be a change to the water and sewer amount on the tax bill, and that will work out to $23.66 per year for residential customers. Next slide, please. This is a distribution of the different assessed values in Manitowoc. Of course, the way that property tax works in Ontario is the rate multiplied by your home's value per MPAC determines your final tax amount. So this is just a graph showing the distribution of the different values of property to watch. As you can see, most of them are clustered around the 30 to 50,000, about 50% are in that window there. And then if you spend between the 20 to 60,000, you have about 86% fall within that window. So the 20 to 60,000 window here is a range of, better not touch the screen, $14.66 per year in taxes for a $20,000 assessed value home, which is quite low. I would say that most residential homes are above that threshold. $30,000 assessed value is about $2,200 a year in taxes, and of course it goes up. $70,000 assessed value is over $5,000 a year in taxes. Now, these assessed values are not necessarily reflective of the market value. MPAC intends to reflect the market reality. However, MPAC has not completed a reassessment of property values since 2016, and we are in a holding pattern on that. We have not. There's been no confirmation from the province or MPAC when the next full reassessment of all the properties in the province will be. So all of that to say, these numbers roughly reflect what you would expect a property to be worth in 2016. That's why they're so much lower than what you see houses selling for in Manitowoc now. You might see, picking some numbers here, a $50,000 assessed value home sell for $180,000 now. Next slide, please. I've already touched on this a little bit. Manitowoc's unique challenges. Goods and services are more expensive. I've already covered that. We also have a history as a community of being a mining town and being a mining town that had assets contributed by local benefactors in the past. And these assets ultimately over the years came into, or were either donated to the township or came into township ownership. And these assets need to be maintained by the township. And there are costs associated with that. And then of course, it's always worth pointing out that we, as a municipality, Manitowoc raises taxation revenue to fund external service providers, including OPP, MPAC, ambulance services, social services, and public health. These are all levies that are imposed upon the municipality under the applicable pieces of legislation, and we are required to fund these agencies that are essentially service delivery partners to deliver municipal services. Next slide, please. So just to run through the services that are offered by the Township of Manitowoc. We offer curbside garbage and recycling collection and local landfill services. Maintenance of paved roadways, both summer and winter maintenance, prompt snow removal in the winter. Full municipal water and sewer system services. Whereas other municipalities might require you to have septic and well. We offer full water and sewer services, comprehensive airport services, allowing for critical medical evacuation and emergency readiness. Fire department services, including public education and emergency response. Next slide, please. By law enforcement services, our OPP funding, it's your municipal tax dollars that pay for the OPP services in our area. Public health and social services, Thunder Bay DSAB, Thunder Bay District Health Unit, Manitowoc Public Library Board is funded through the Township of Manitowoc. Recreation facilities, including our hockey rink, community auditorium, curling rink, fitness center, as well as community events programming. Rendezvous Days is a fantastic success over the last few years, made possible by a dedicated group of volunteers first and foremost, but also through some municipal support by way of funding and municipal resources. Parks, beach, boat launch and trails upkeep, including 14 kilometers of newly revitalized multi-use trails. Very exciting. Check them out. Manitowoc Municipal Golf Course, a full service 9-hole golf course, and Kiwasa Ski Hill with a 94-meter vertical drop, T-bar lift, and 10 runs of varying difficulty. We have a wide variety of services and amenities in Manitowoc that in my personal opinion is the envy of many other municipalities in Ontario and sure. Next slide, please. Recreation community services. So just an area that, again, this is a little bit in response to some of the feedback and ramblings that come to our attention in the community. Resource allocation to community and recreation services is an area that we receive criticism. And I do want to point out that they're an important township function and priority for a few reasons. What I would ask the audience to consider is, as a property owner, if you're a property owner, what would happen to your property value if Manitowoc did not have recreation facilities and programs that potentially attract families and those looking for things to do when they're choosing somewhere to live? It's just something to think about, that these services do provide value to the community and property value. Consider the taxation impact. If demand for property declined as a result of a loss of these types of services, if there were a large exodus because the people in Manitowoc were unhappy that there was a reduction in those types of services, that could be devastating to property values. So just a couple of things to consider when looking at these services. Privatization, something that I like to touch on. It's a common suggestion, but in many cases, not a viable option. A lot of our recreation community services, of course, there is a municipal subsidy to those. And part of the reason for that is if it were left to the private sector, there may not be a business case for many of those facets of rec community services that would be profitable for a private business to take on. So it's left to basically the municipality offers it as a service, or it doesn't happen. Next slide, please. Okay, so the pie charts, my favorite part, just show a breakdown of our revenues, funding sources, as well as our expenses. During our discussion, we can absolutely come back to these slides or any of the slides. They just show a bit of a visualization of what makes up our municipal money coming in and money going out. So for revenues and funding sources, there's slight difference between the two, but I won't get into the accounting side of things. Taxation and payment in lieu represents just about 50% of what we use to fund the operation. And then another large chunk is our Ontario Municipal Partnership Funding Grant. So, of course, taxation and payments in lieu, we set every year, the tax rate determines how much we raise on that wedge. The OFF grant is a product of an agreement between the province and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. It is funding that the province provides to municipalities that have a lack of resources. So Manitowoc, given our tax base and given our factors, that's our allocation from the province. It is unconditional grant funding that we use to operate the municipality. Next largest wedge is user fees. Primarily it's user fees. There's a couple other things in there, some donations, sale of assets and other. 1.7 million, about 1 million, a little less than 1 million is water and sewer charges. And then the other 700,000 is the rest, which can include things like golf course membership, recreation revenues, administration revenues. There's a number of items that attract charges. There's quite a few that make up that wedge. And then the other ones are smaller pieces. So we have a little bit of interest and penalties income. A little bit of other grants. There's not a lot of grants other than OMP. OMP is a large unconditional operating grant. Other than that grant, there are not a lot of grants that can be used for operations. Excuse me. And then this wedge here is our transfer from reserves, reserve funds, which it has shrunk substantially since the last presentation, which is really important. We are looking as we go through the next budget processes to eliminate that wedge, because using reserves and reserve funds, it can only be a short-term strategy. Otherwise, you're in trouble. So we do have a direction to eliminate that and in fact sort of reverse course and raise money through taxation payments and to actually go into reserves for capital projects. Next slide, please. Expenses. So this is a busier slide. Some of these are grouped because if they were presented the same way that the operating budget summary, Schedule A to the proposed budget is, it would just be, there would be too many wedges. So, of course, administration, council, and then building, planning, economic development, those are relatively small, they've been lumped in. 1.6 to 1.7 million, 20% of our expenses are in this area. We are the government. There is lots of administration associated with the government. That is one area of our expenses that can come up as a bad area, too much on administration, but we're a government and a lot of what we do is administration. There's quite a bit that makes up that 1.6 to 1.7 million, but you know, it includes a lot of what goes on in this building and what keeps the organization running. Roadways and snow removal, of course, that's a major area of our infrastructure and a major service provided by the township. Maintenance of our roadways and our snow removal, and it's obviously a large area that is important. It's another large wedge. Parks and recreation, it's about 1.7 million between all of the different facets of the organization there. And of course, that's offset by user fees. So you see 1.7 million being spent, but going back to we don't need to go back, but a lot of the user fees revenue, or some of the user fees revenue offsets that amount. Same with water and sewer, you see that there's 1.08 million for water and sewer as budgeted. Again, that's offset mostly by a little less than 1 million in water and sewer fees. The difference, of course, is made up by taxation. Garbage collection and landfill, about 784,000. And then policing is another significant chunk there, and I'll let the rest of it speak for itself. Again, we can discuss further and go back to the slide. If anybody would like to make comment or ask questions about it. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, and that's the open discussion portion, so, that's about all I have to say, unless anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to, help answer them. Or of course, commentary, we're here to not only answer questions, but also take your feedback with respect to the municipal operating and capital budget. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and we look forward to hearing your questions and comments. And if anybody does want to come up, please just come on down and state your name and give us your question or feedback, and we'll do our best to answer.
Good afternoon, Margaret Hartling. I have several questions, so I'll just do them one by one and see where we go from there. First off, can I get a copy of those? I can't see them.
Absolutely.
I cannot read them. I can't, it's a blur. So thank you. When I went through the budget, I hadn't paid attention to these in several years, and my taxes are now almost as high as small car payments, so it's time to start paying attention. There used to be, when council had their budget deliberations, there was an open meeting. Does that not happen anymore, where people can come and listen to the deliberation with council? I was kind of hoping they would be here because they make the final decision, and
So, if you'd like to, I guess I'll answer one by one. So with respect to that question, we did have a open meeting where council deliberated on the budget, and that was on the 6th, it was last Thursday. So that was the first presentation of the budget. The public was welcome to attend and observe. There wasn't an observer comment section, but the public was welcome to observe that discussion. And then our next meeting with council with respect to the budget is scheduled for August 20th. And that would be potentially the date of final passing after the 2-week notice of intent to pass.
okay.
And the public may address council at that time as well.
I really like the flyer that went out because Facebook isn't always up to date, and if you don't happen to see that post, you don't see it. And I'll bet you 90% don't ever go look at the website to see what's happening. So, but I really did like, I came up in a good time. So I had some questions about some departments that sort of were a little concerning or a little questionable. Fire department, the difference between last year's and this year's budget versus actuals is pretty significant. Can someone explain why? The budget last year was 300 and, budget last year was 361 for expenses, and this year it's only 281. That's pretty substantial. This is based on, it's a couple of different sheets. You sort of gotta go back and forth. Oh, but
Yes. So right now our budgeted, that's right, our budgeted amount is 281,000 for 2026. And in 2025, it was 361, right? So, I don't know if that would be something that we would speak to, because that's going into the details of the budget.
yeah.
I mean, it is public information.
Well, there were several areas within the department that were
Can
realized.
you explain it? I mean, there's no point in asking questions if you can't give an answer.
We moved from a full-time fire chief, 1 FTE to 1.5 FTE shared marathon. That's a large piece of those savings. I believe another item, I believe there were some one-time maintenance items last year that are not there this year. And I think that would represent the bulk of that difference.
Okay, roadway winter. Again, significant difference over last year's budget and this year's budget, and given that we had the winter from hell last year.
So that's this year's 240. last year's
304.
304, okay, so about 65 difference, so.
I mean, some of that is staffing, right?
Yeah,
We've had some staffing changeover, I believe we've. Yeah, definitely staffing, just trying to think what else.
So is that a reduction that has been contracted out?
Nope, nothing's been contracted out, we've just been short staffed at times, you know,
Okay.
filling it in with overtime, but it still doesn't have that full-time position, right? So, you're definitely up and down with staff, but that would definitely be a factor. And that's just roadways, you were talking about transportation, correct?
Nope, that one I thought was fairly reasonable. So that's quite the difference. So if you get your staffing levels back up, is that budget going to be enough?
the budget, staffing related budgets, have been looked at as far as what we anticipate for this year. And we do look closely at staffing budget every year at, exactly which staff are in which departments. And then, of course, as you know, there's allocations, of some departments, right, where, and it can vary year to year. The staff may, may be working more in these areas this year, these areas the next year, right? So we do an analysis every year to look at how that has fallen. And sometimes there's some adjusting that happens there where, it might go up a little bit in transportation, but it might come down a little bit in winter control or any of the other areas that represent the public works, so, right? So.
Okay, so the next two are sort of tied together, the sewer network and the water network. The expenses for the water network specifically, 705 versus 825, that's a significant difference as well.
Just bear with us, because, we've got cross reference between the two different reports. So yes, 825 for the current year expenses, and last year was.
Just looking at
845.
budgets.
So for water network, it looks like we went from 845 last year to 825 this, oh, sorry, I'm looking at actual.
So it's like $120,000 difference.
Yes, it looks like we had budgeted 705. And then this year we budgeted 825, so I believe some of that is related to water breaks.
So that's what I was gonna step in, so a lot of that would be related to water breaks and then kind of our projections for this year. It's hard to judge what we're gonna have for a break or when it's gonna happen, so that's kind of what we projected for this year.
And I actually, there is an accounting side of this that I just want to touch on, so this is preliminary and subject to adjustment, of course. And there are some amounts in the water, the actual 845, which is over a budget amount of 705,000, so we were over budget. But some of those will end up on a budget basis, it's operating, but some of them will be moved to capital. And they will represent emergency replacements of things like service lines or sections of main that will be moved over to the capital fund, and we expect that those areas will break again, and it becomes part of capital investment. It's emergency capital investment, but that's some explanation there for those variances.
Has any consideration been made to bring back our employees doing it instead of contracting everything out? Is that on the table this year, next year, down the road?
I think that's a miscommunication. Our employees do what we can handle. It depends the severity of the break, the time, the staffing levels, when we are able to do them, we take them on, and when we need help. There's also some where yes, you see Velnet, but we are also there working with them, so. Yeah, it goes both ways depending,
And in the past, going back 10 years or so, there were periods where water breaks were left for years. We do not leave water breaks for years anymore. I believe, would that be right to say?
There was a time where we were very far behind, and we generally don't have any breaks that are even 6 months behind. Generally within, you can be pretty confident within 30 to 60 days it's repaired. If it's a main break, well, I mean, obviously it's as quickly as we can, but we don't have anything outstanding anymore. And definitely when you've seen Velma here the most, that was part of getting, you know, our heads above water, if you will. And like I said, now it's, if we need them, we call them, but generally we try to, you know, work together on them and get it done efficiently.
Ski hill revenue, significant difference, more than double.
I think that's some good news.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not, but
yeah.
it's like,
It was-
it's glaring, like, what are you doing up there that you're gonna double the revenue? Don't get me wrong, the guy's done a wonderful job up there.
Mhm.
But that,
Marketing.
that's significant.
And a heck of a season. The weather was on our side.
We were able to start earlier and end later. We went right till nearly the end of mid-April, past Easter. We started in December. That hasn't happened in my tenure here. And then there was a fairly significant marketing blitz that actually came primarily from the ski club itself. They did a fantastic job with their videos and marketing and extending the reach across the North Shore. And I think Terrace Bay not having their hill open as well potentially brought some people, more people skiing here than maybe that would have went to Terrace Bay.
Great. Economic development, can you tell me what's included in that 42,000? Oh, it's not even 42, yeah, it is 42.
42.5. There's some salary in there for some tourist information center, I believe, in use. Or I guess it's this year, it's tourist information center.
Yeah,
Yeah, marketing
Yeah.
promotion, there's some merchandise, advertising, covered that, marketing, that's, I would say probably the bulk. That line.
And now just a couple of other questions. One of the screens that you read was, community services and what's going on with community services, and I agree with you again, bang up job, you know, there's lots going on. But what about the seniors? Like a lot of stuff is geared for little guys, sorry, and a lot of the
Yeah.
events that are held are at clubhouse where people with disabilities can't get to, can't participate. So you're leaving out, given how many seniors live in this community, there's about 50% based on Stats Canada. You're leaving a lot of people at the door. So what are you gonna do for seniors?
I think one of the largest things that the township does for seniors that the township is very proud of is the in-kind contribution of the Golden Age Center space. That's a large commercial space that is a beautiful space. There's lots of great things in there, and that space is provided by the township, and that's one, I think, a large area that we can be proud of. I'm perhaps Director Wallow would like to speak to some of the programming geared to seniors, because we do try to reach a wide range.
we do. So, I mean, you're right, we should get better at, I know we had started a couple of things that sort of tanked for us, like, so we did like a senior fitness thing that we were running for a while, that really wasn't well attended. We need to get better at that.
And I think there's two other places that do it, so looking at what the other groups do in the community. Because we seem to be in competition sometimes,
Sure.
you know, we run something and then community service takes it over, neither one does well. You know, there are two groups that do exercise programs, a third. People will only go to so many, so anyway, it was just a comment I wanted to know, because it really did look youth oriented. So that's just a comment. And I guess the big one, and I was hoping council would be here to answer this, is what did council look at reducing services? Because, to quote, Mr. McGregor, the current budget model, taxing model, whatever you want to call it, is not sustainable. In the last 2 years, you took money out of reserves to balance the budget. So when is council going to start looking at services and what they can offer, and what did you reduce in this budget that maybe could have mitigated that transfer from reserves for this year or last year? Because if I look at the capital, it looks like other than the long-term debt, everything was funded from reserves. There may be more information I don't see based on this, because I don't see the continuity. And maybe there was money put in reserves that's being spent, but it doesn't show here. So that's a council, unless somebody wants to try and answer that on their behalf.
I think I'd be comfortable to speak to that a little bit. The administration direction or recommendation that went to the council table most recently for the 2026 budget. Of course, I have said in, as you pointed out, 2023, 2024, and 2025, that we're not, currently sustainable, like you said. I see this year's budget as a return to a stable strategy with respect to financial piece and taxation. So we've gone from it's a reversal of, right? In 2023, I believe it was less than $100,000 taken from reserves and reserve funds. 2024, it went up. 2020 to about, I think it was 750,000. It might have been less than that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so sorry about that, but last year, 2025, 620,000. This year's 357,000. And a lot of those savings are ongoing savings. They're savings that have been realized that we expect to continue. Of course, there's going to be increases, inflation, and et cetera, moving forward as well. But we do have other areas of savings, potential savings identified for the future. So I am expecting, I don't want to tie my hands here and make any promises, so to speak, with respect to the 2027 budget. We're not there yet. But I expect that the transfer from reserves for the 2027 budget will be significantly less, even as low as 0. Don't want to tie my hands, but we're returning to that sustainable budget. And it'll also tie into our asset management plan, very important. The last asset management plan that we adopted was in 2021, and we're working with a consultant now to put together a new asset management plan that best reflects the reality that we're looking at as a municipality. So we're going to look at what we need long-term for infrastructure, because that's a big piece of it. We're taking money out of reserves when it would be better to be putting money into infrastructure reserves. So that's where we're going to get. And I see that happening over the next couple of years, moving from taking money out of reserves to putting money back into reserves.
Okay, so back to my question.
If
sorry.
if I can add to that, so council, we're going into a new, into an election, we'll have a new council at the table. So in 2027, we're hoping to have the long-term asset management plan together. And then with that, and then doing a new strategic plan with council, we're hoping to come and look at the services that are provided, and then also tie that into a 2027 budget.
So this council currently didn't look at any cuts, any service reductions. There was nothing put on the table recommended by administration or council, just take the money from reserves.
No,
Am I
we're able
understanding
to
that
bring it down
correctly?
42%.
Mhm. So for 2026, yes, and I would say that you're right. In the past years, no, we haven't looked seriously at service level reductions. That has not been the direction. So, but again, it's returning to that sustainable model. And looking back a little bit further, right, looking back to 2020 or 2015, 2011, go back to 2011, looked at system reserve and reserve fund amounts. That we were around 3.5 in reserve funds back in 2011. From 2011 to 2015, they grew around 5, 6, and then from 2016 through 2020, they continued to grow. We ended up at our highest point around between 10 and 11 million in reserves and reserve funds. And I mean, depending on, everybody has different opinions about what that means. And some would say that that means the township was taxing heavily and not providing services. So over the last several years, using those reserves and reserve funds to stabilize the tax rate rather than hike the tax rate over the last 4 years was a choice that was recommended by administration and accepted by council. And that's a direction that I think both administration and council would stand by, given that we're looking at returning to that sustainability moving forward. Does that make sense? Would you like to follow up on any of that?
No, it does answer my question that there was no consideration given to other than taking from reserves. So, that answers that question. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Did you know I'm Martin Turner? I have a vision problem and I don't have a cell phone, I don't go on computers that much, but. We do get left out of a lot of things. Even sales at the local grocery store, but that's beside the point. I realize, we all have to tighten our belts. And, I know it's not included specifically in the budget. But I've conserved energy since the '70s when recycling and that first started. And it doesn't show what the electricity bill is monthly, but I guess it's incorporated in each department,
That's correct.
so we don't know. I know it's always been very high and to my knowledge, as I'm not on the computer much, but there's nothing to encourage people to reduce energy and reduce their garbage. There's not much of an environment, most of us are too old to continue on with that. But anyway, and I always wonder about lawyer fees, but I guess they're incorporated into administration, right?
That's right.
That 440,000 that was taken from the pre-budget up to that locker thing, what was that about? Where was that, in the rec center?
You talk
Oh,
about
that's
public
the-
works upgrade,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did
the
substantial upgrade for the public workshop.
Oh, the public workshop, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, that's good. I'm not happy about the garbage prop, it's gone from 200,000 to 600,000. I phoned them, when we had a volunteer recycling in the '90s. We kept track of every ton we shipped to GCO, cause at that time they were taking our metals out and giving us money for it. And, we had lots of encouragement and it became a transportation problem. Now, I phoned them and, well, I phoned the township and they keep no records of the tonnage that pick up. I'm concerned about all people that do not recycle. And, I finally got a hold of them, find out where the plastic was recycled in Thunder Bay. To only find out that everything is shipped to Winnipeg. So that must cost a lot of money, maybe that's why we're paying 600,000 or something. It doesn't make sense to me, they're an American company, very big, they've taken over Canada. But now Marathon and other places along the North Shore have taken another company, which is a BC company. I don't know how that's working, because we all started out with, company in Thunder Bay who helped us with our recycling, gave us a free baler and helped us. But they got outbid by this larger company, right? But anyway, I think that's all I have. Thank you for the recreation that we have and, for the volunteers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if I can just speak to some of the commentary, these are areas that we are continuously looking at for our options. Sometimes, well, when it comes to fixed term contracts, at times we don't have any room to maneuver, but in time we will. So it's something that we'll be looking at in the future and that we're continuing to look at on an ongoing basis.
There's say one more thing, that seniors are very concerned of how they're going to get those big, large garbage cans out in the winter. You can't get kids, even like we all, most of them paid up the snowplow, but then you have to find some kid that'll shovel your driveway, your walkway and everything. So you can't get them even with your volunteer hours, so I don't know how, and then they tell you can't put it out till 7 the next morning, and for some, they have to go to work, and your neighbors that put it out for you, it's become a very complicated thing. And dumping it all in to one thing seems, the blue bags were working good. I recycle with my daughter, because apartments don't have recycle. But, anyway, it's a strange thing, and I don't know how much, the purpose of the whole thing, right, is reducing our landfill, so we never have to put a new one. And I can't drive up there anymore, but I hear it's. Well, people just throw out so much stuff, you know. Thank God for Threads, they save a lot of stuff. And they teach a lot of people to share it. So I'm thankful for that.
Thank you.
More, I won't use your mic because I'm pretty loud. My name's Mike, by the way, so,
Hi, Mike.
this is just. I always been curious, and this is just. How many houses are here in town that you collect taxes from? Like, would it be like you say there's 1,800. So would there be 900 houses or less?
That's a good question. The database that I work with and the role listing I work with doesn't necessarily specify whether a property is a house or not, residential or not, yes, and if you were to dig in, you'd be able to tell which properties have houses or not, but. I'm not sure, I don't think I can give you a number of houses, I would have to guess it's around, say. Guessing.
We
Please
should do
don't
a
hold me
guess
to
game
this.
with the jar.
Yeah, and then go on to
Count
count
them.
community services is on that.
It'd be fun.
I think it would be, I like that, I wanna say probably 800.
Well,
That would be my
that's what I
guess.
was thinking. Usually there's a couple and you got some kids in the house, so I mean.
Yeah,
If we have 18 to 2,000, it can't be over 1,000 houses, it just doesn't make sense, paying taxes, right?
no, I believe there's.
See, I wanna say when we did the distribution of the garbage carts, it was around 900 driveways.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
between that 850, 900.
So that's our best guess.
Okay, and actually, Tyler, this one is for you. I know this is a budget meeting and maybe this is something you could incorporate, but. When you guys have your water breaks and stuff like that, you turn up and the road's closed, but there doesn't seem to be any beforehand information. Right, so I pulled up in the school bus and you only gotta find somebody's driveway to turn around in, right? Because you all of a sudden you turn her in and the road's closed, right? There's no, doesn't seem to be any forementioned. Well, you know, you can't tell when a break's gonna happen, but if it happened at 2 o'clock in the morning, if I would put something on Facebook saying, beware, this road's gonna be closed because we've had a water break.
So, and I don't know where that lies, but generally when there is a water break, all the buses, the OPP, fire department, everybody gets notified, if that morning. So I don't know if sometimes maybe that's not from, you know, if we notify the bus company, they should be notifying their drivers as well.
But they're out of Greenstone, right? They're not, right? I mean, by the time you get to them,
I mean, that's kind of, that becomes a, you know, policy on the bus company. You must have
right,
dispatchers.
why would you not just post it here in town, right? For everybody to know?
It's, sure, we could always do better, you know, we could always do better at things, but, you know. When we notify these companies, you think they would also notify their drivers as well, so I guess we.
But they're not
we all
gonna
could do that.
notify all 950 driveways in town that. Right, that, there's been a break on Manitou Road and you might wanna. Not
Sure,
go that way.
everything could be better, but, you know, it's, something we strive for, and then again, some are planned, some are not, so.
So I'm just saying, when you're in budget deliberations, maybe you might wanna say, hey, I need this kind of money to inform people that, I need a better communication system than what I've currently got.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you, Tyler, for answering, thank you, Aaron, and everybody else, thank you.
That's.
Can I ask why this meeting was held in the afternoon rather than the evening when more people could attend? And you know that's been all.
Um. There's a public commentary available at the August 20th meeting that's being held at, is that 7 o'clock? So I think that we're capturing both, I mean, of course, that's a little later in the process. But there is an opportunity at 7 p.m. as well, by way of that August 20th meeting. So I
But
think
that's
we're,
the same night you're gonna pass the budget.
There's also the survey.
yes, there's the survey email option, so one of the questions on the survey is include any questions that you would like brought forward to council, so that could be done as well.
And honestly, historically, we have found that our meetings are more well attended during the day as it is now than at 7 p.m. We rarely get anybody attend at 7, even if it is an open house.
And while the budget is going to be tabled for passing on August 20th, it is proposed and council may decide that based on the public commentary, that's council's prerogative. They may decide to refer it back to administration based on public commentary, so. In practice, usually it would pass at our August 20th meeting, but you never know. Council does have the option to refer it back to administration if they feel that public feedback would prompt them to do so.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's, we do try, honestly, I mean, and I'm sure you understand, no matter what you do, the public's going to, have issues. If we choose 3 p.m., it's gonna be why it wasn't 7. If we choose 7, it's gonna be, that's so late. Why can't it be earlier? So sometimes we contend with that, but, we do, I think, cover both of our bases here by having this afternoon meeting and then a 7 p.m. meeting. And then, of course, the last meeting was an afternoon meeting too, right? Yeah. Thank you.
But also the taxes, it's summertime, taxes, the budget could have been ready in April before people started going on holidays,
Absolutely.
like other communities. I think you should really try to get it earlier.
We would like to move earlier for next year. It is a range. Some municipalities are passing their budgets now. Some municipalities have their budgets passed in January, February. It does range, but we do want to aim a little earlier next year for sure. Would anyone else like to make commentary or ask questions? If not, then I think we're at a point where we'll adjourn the session, so I'll just check one more time if anybody wants to provide any feedback or questions. And if you think of something later, do fill out the survey, and then include your question or commentary for council there. Or you can email me, my email is treasurer@manitowatch.ca. You can also call me, my phone number and extension are available on the township website and in the Boreal. Any feedback that you pass to myself, or any, if it pertains to a particular department, feel free to reach out to relevant manager or to the CIO as well. All of our contact information is accessible online and in the Boreal. We'd like to hear from you if you have a question or further comments, so. One last call for any comments or questions. Okay, well, thank you for coming out, everybody. I certainly really appreciate the engagement. It is important. We do reflect on, and even if these pieces of feedback and commentary don't have a direct impact on the budget that's already been tabled, it's also taken into consideration as we move into the 2027 budget. So again, thank you for your comments, your questions, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for coming over.